Is the Foxhole community toxic? I get asked that question a lot. In fact, it's probably the second most asked question, the first being, do you need to be in a clan to play Foxhole, which I've already made a video on if you'd like to check that out. Of course, there is toxicity in any gaming community on some level. But why are potential new players hearing about toxicity in the Foxhole community specifically? And most importantly, will it affect you if you do decide to play the game? We'll answer those questions and more in today's video. This may seem obvious, but let's take a moment to discuss what toxicity actually is, as I'm sure some of you have a slightly different definition to my own. I'm more than happy for others to disagree with me, but my attempt at a definition is this. Toxic behaviour is when somebody goes out of their way to make somebody else feel bad. Now that might sound childish or oversimplified, but let us also consider what isn't toxic behaviour. Telling someone no is not toxic. Simply disagreeing with someone isn't either. You might not like what somebody has to say, but that doesn't make it toxic. I'm very interested to hear your own definition of this term, but I think we can agree that if somebody intentionally says something with such venom that they're clearly attempting to make someone feel stupid or unwanted, that's toxic. You can't always help it if someone feels bad as a result of your actions or words, but actually intending to make them feel that way is another matter entirely. So now we've nailed down a definition, which may not be perfect, but does give us something to work with. Let's discuss, where does this notion that Foxhole is toxic actually come from? Can we shut this down right away by simply saying it's not true? I have many potential new players asking me this question on a regular basis, and the simple answer must be that they've seen reviews of the game, and some of those reviews mention how toxic the community is. I'm sure some of them have a friend that already plays who tells them of their own experience of a toxic community, and I have seen discussions around the subject on places like Reddit, so it's not hard to imagine players are hearing about the toxicity through various social channels. My point is that we must acknowledge that this is real. It's not just a made-up rumour that can be dismissed so we can all move on with our lives. It is a real consideration for new players, and so should be treated as such and tackled head on. My personal experience of playing Foxhole is either on my own or with a few friends, but in both cases communicating with random players around me, so plenty of opportunity for toxic attacks. I can confirm wholeheartedly that I have not once, ever been subject to toxic behaviour under those circumstances. In fact, quite the opposite. The vast majority of players are lovely, just there to have a good time, ready to help when you don't understand things. Sure, they might give you a hard time if you do something stupid, but I wouldn't class that as toxic as long as it doesn't go too far, which in my experience, it doesn't. And believe me, we have done some seriously stupid shit while figuring out how the game works. We've blocked friendly tanks so they get destroyed. We've launched a flare over our friendly positions instead of the enemy, so their artillery starts pounding us. I've run friendlies over. I've accidentally blown friendlies up with a badly thrown grenade. I've shot them as they walk in front of me because I'm too busy looking up ahead. Some real stupid stuff. And at worst, I've been reprimanded by a disgruntled Scottish guy who actually turned out to be very friendly after berating me for accidentally killing his friend. So in summary, if you intend to play Foxhole alone or with a few friends, I can confirm that it's very unlikely you will come across any toxic players at all, let alone on a regular basis. So that still begs the question, if there's enough toxic behaviour in Foxhole to warrant these rumours, then where is it? I'm sure that most players would agree with me that the only place left for it to be is in the clans. Now, let's set something straight first of all. The clans of Foxhole are absolutely key to the game running as smoothly as it does, whether it's logistics, research, or frontline operations. It's the clans that hold the game together in such a way that allows more casual players to simply log on for a while, have a bit of fun, and log off again. But with that said, the only time I've witnessed toxic behaviour in Foxhole is third hand. On multiple occasions, I've overheard a random player saying how toxic certain individuals within their own clans are, and how they wished they hadn't looked on their Discord, that sort of thing. And let's be honest, clans are full of passionate people, and it's often that passion that leads to toxic behaviour. Clearly, at this point, I'm talking about a subject I know little about, as I'm not in a Foxhole clan myself. This is mostly from other players telling me what it's like in their clan, or overhearing other players complaining about toxic behaviour they've experienced. Are all Foxhole clans toxic? Of course not. I'm sure the vast majority are great fun, easygoing, and simply there to have a good time. But the thing about toxic behaviour is that it only takes 1 or 2 bad eggs to ruin it for the rest of us, or give a whole bunch of people a bad name. Toxic players, by their very nature, are the ones that shout the loudest and make themselves heard. So what conclusions can we draw from this, and how does that affect your decision of whether to buy the game? What I can say with confidence is that if there is a toxic environment in Foxhole, it's got to be limited to the clans. But equally, the vast majority of clan players I've interacted with, either in the game or in the comments section, are as friendly and non-toxic as those who aren't in a clan. But we do have to accept Foxhole as a game is more susceptible to toxic behaviour, simply because it's 2 gigantic teams of players who need to work together to win one big war. Of course there's going to be friction and the occasional twat. The only real chance of this becoming a problem for you is if you were to join a clan to play the game, and even then you would have to be pretty unlucky to experience anything other than good times with a great bunch of people. Foxhole has gotten this toxic reputation from somewhere, but in my experience this has been blown totally out of proportion if this is the number 1 or number 2 question potential new players have about the game. For every toxic person in this game, there are thousands of other players who just want to have a good time building, shooting, delivering, and all the other activities there are in this amazing game. Don't let the rumours of toxicity put you off, as you are very unlikely to experience it for yourself. If you want to know anything else about Foxhole, please let me know in the comments below. If you're an experienced player who wants to share your view, please do. Whether it's agreeing or disagreeing with me, let's make sure potential new players can make an informed decision. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.